at least start with a practice of strengthening what's already there, you're going to become much more confident in it much quicker. And that confidence in how you're receiving information through the clair that's already open is what naturally opens up the other clairs. And I know this because it's a tried and true practice. I've been teaching this for years, and I've seen the transformation that people have experienced of when they focus primarily on their clairs that are already there. Welcome to the Angelic Frequency Podcast. We are your hosts, Cristina
and Luisa, and today we talk about one of my favorite topics, the clairs. So we talked about how that comes up for us in life and how we can use the angels to support us in developing our clairs. So let's dive in. Yeah.
I love that.
But it's interesting, we've been going through a couple of days of workshops right now at this point in preparation for New York and just sitting in that energy. And it's interesting how collective experiences are really powerful and different from, if I compare that to my usual meditations, the energy is so much stronger. I will physically move or feel like it's just elevated. It just definitely feels like something else.
I love that. I totally agree with you. And yeah, it's interesting because that feels like something that has been coming through a lot recently, that I feel like the angels have just been showing me and saying it, is how the energy gets amplified when people come together. And it's just this amplification, we amplify the energy. And I guess that's part of why, we feel so transformed when we come together, whether it's just being with someone else, I feel for one, but then also in a group, that's another level. But I don't know if it's because the energy gets mirrored. And, if I think of I don't know, I go to science and I'm if you put light into the mirror and it's bouncing off and it's doing these things or whatever, but it's also a reflection back, whether you're with one person or multiple people. It's you get reflected back to you things that maybe you might not have felt or been aware of on your own. So then that adds to the experience. I don't know what the actual science is behind it.
Yeah, no, who knows? But when you think about it, when we come together in prayer on a temple, church, just even concerts, whatever it is, the collective experience, the depth of the emotion and what happens, there's definitely something there to that collective experience that just amplifies. If we're all happy singing the same song, we're all the emotions are heightened. So I'm guessing the parallel there with going to church and during service or a collective meditation like this is just amplified.
Yeah.
And we're all connecting on that other level.
Yeah. And the other cool thing too, I find with that is that you don't necessarily have to be in person to receive that too. That can happen. I feel in person, it's the next level of that experience. Sure. But then also collectively, if you tune in together, online or whatever, you still feel that, which is really cool to know that it goes beyond space and time.
I know. And even today, something super interesting happened when we, a lot of us who were connected to your workshop had even the similar experiences during meditation or found ourselves in the same space. And so, and having receiving similar objects or things. So it's we're all there together, actually.
Exactly. I didn't describe any of that. I did not describe those particular aspects.
No, not at all. Everyone. Yeah, everyone was on their own journey, and somehow when we were sharing, it was oh wait, I was there too. That happened to me. So it's the weirdest thing how even through the screen, YouTube Live, and even though we had that experience like that, we on an energetic level, you do connect when there's that collective coming together.
Yeah, Yeah, absolutely. And that's the beautiful power of energy. And like, it's kind of it goes back to that saying of how, like physically we all feel separate because I can see like this is my body, that's your body, like you're at a different location and whatever. But then on an energy level, we're actually not that separate. On an energy level, we're actually so much more connected
Mhm.
because then we come
Yeah.
together in these spaces like that and we feel the energy and it elevates us, and people have similar experiences. So it's just interesting to me to be able to then move through the day or move through life in general
Mhm.
from that perspective of
Yeah.
our connectedness versus our separation, and then it goes through that. Then it goes to the whole idea of like separation is an illusion, and that whole thing. So
Yeah, absolutely. And wherever you are in life, like, again, it can be very intentional and directed to God, like being in church or something like that, receiving communion, and so how powerful those moments can be. But even on our day to day, sitting together at a dinner table or in a meeting at work, like just holding space with a group of people and how energetically we're connecting at that time, and whatever we bring through, we're all going through it on our energetic level. It's super interesting to
yeah.
experience that.
Right. Yeah, totally. And it's like thinking about things like that and just being able to be a part of that or to be able to create experiences like that for me, I'm like, okay, that gives me hope for humanity. Like we can actually we
Yeah,
can
the
do this. We can come
collective.
together as a collective. We've got so much power as a collective.
If only we wanted to fix things,
Yeah.
we could, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that was a really cool experience. And I wanted to share too, as part of just like what you were saying, the workshop experience and like that witnessing of the collective having a similar experience. For me too, it's interesting as a facilitator, I feel like I have a slightly different experience than
Uh-huh.
people who are just like in it. But for me, I also felt like I was somewhere, and like I feel
Mm,
like for me, I'm also on some level receiving something too, but then it's like
that's
I feel like I'm holding two, I don't know, two roles because I feel like
mhm,
I'm receiving,
mhm.
but then also I'm like facilitating. So it's a really interesting experience, but to me it's also I feel like I completely, not completely, but I do feel like I am up somewhere, and then it's like, okay, we're rounding back down. Okay, let me
Yeah.
come back down. I also need a couple moments to just like reorient myself. When you open your eyes after a deep meditation and you're just like, okay, where am I? What am I
What's
doing?
going on?
Yeah.
The coming down is really, really bad. And you're like, I don't want to leave. It
Yeah.
feels so good. I want to stay
Yeah.
here. But that's so interesting what your experience is. And I wondered if the angels ever, because I guess you're channeling and that must take so much energy or be draining somehow. But the fact that you're also on some level having that experience is so interesting. So when you're
Right.
guiding us, and I think I've asked you this before, going back to your process and what it is to be a channel, when you're leading the meditation, the integration, the journey, the whatever it is, how do you experience that? What you're saying is what you're seeing is coming up spontaneously? Do you have a plan? How does that work?
Yeah. So no, I don't have a plan. I do not. I very rarely have a plan.
Okay.
If anything, I just get an insight, like before, let's say
Mm-hmm.
a workshop or something, I get some insights of like, oh, we're going to be doing a transmutation. Like there's this energy and we're going to transmute it. So like I know that there's going to be something like that happening, but the actual process of what's going to happen, that I don't know. I channel it on the spot. And so then my experience of it is that I close my eyes and I'm in it, and basically it does feel like it's happening to me. It feels like I'm in it. And so I'm simply just describing what I'm experiencing, what I'm seeing happening. And then yeah, and then that's the journey. That's the experience. So then it's so what it becomes is that people who enter into, let's say, this group meditative journey experience, through the angels channeling through me, it's like the space is being held. And so as I say the words, you're receiving the frequency or the transmission. But I guess as I'm receiving it, I'm also experiencing it. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like this, it's coming in, but I'm also in it, but I'm also sharing what it is. So then other people can receive that frequency too.
Sounds exhausting.
Honestly,
Are you actually exhausted? Like, do you feel tired, dehydrated? Like, what do you feel like?
not usually, no. I find that, well, okay, it depends how long, I guess, I'm channeling for. I do find that when I'm channeling for a long time that
Hmm.
I can get tired by the end. So
Okay.
that for sure happens. But when it comes to those journeys, usually I'm not. Usually I feel like I receive the energy too. So then
Right.
it's kind of like I feel even more elevated, if anything.
Yeah, you also get the benefit from
I
it.
also get
So
the
you're
benefit.
kind of
Yeah.
doing two things at once. It's interesting to think about it. Like, is it your higher self doing the one thing and your human doing the other thing? Like, I wonder
Right.
what's actually, if there's a split there and there's
Yeah.
two things happening at the same time.
I know. And I don't know the answer to that because yeah, it's hard to distinguish because
Hmm.
it almost feels like the experience is happening so simultaneously that
Right.
I'm like, what? Like what's happening, you know? But yeah, it's very interesting.
That's very interesting, that whole process. So the fact that you even on a, yeah, that they bring through even not only the process of what happens, but like, okay, this is a transmutation, this is a soul integration, this is a journey, this is a whatever. So the whole thing is just being directed from above, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
It's
great.
like they're the yeah, the like you know, the orchestra, like they're the
Mhm.
one directing the thing and then I and then so then I'm receiving and then I'm translating it essentially. I'm like the translator. I'm like this is what's happening right now, you
Yeah.
know, so that people who are wanting to tune in can receive that. And so then it's interesting to think about how like the fact that it's my voice, like I'm speaking it
Hmm.
is what is the vehicle, like the vessel of transmission. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which then and I bring that up because I feel like that then equates to just an awareness of how all of us are vessels in that way. Like all of us have that. All of us, when we are connected in that way and then using our voice or however it might come through for whoever, like for some people, it comes through art, right? Like, have you ever seen a piece of art and you're just like, oh, it's so beautiful. Like, I feel stuff in my heart just
Yeah.
looking at this, you
Mhm.
know? Or whatever way, like dance too. Sometimes I've seen like professional like dancing and it's just like so beautiful, like how they translate this energy. So it feels like in whatever way that expression comes through, there's a frequency associated with it, which then on the other side of it, people who receive it then get to experience that same energy.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And from my perspective, I think I experienced that too. Even just in conversation, but again, it's a collective thing. So in conversation with someone else or with a group of people, that you'll start saying things, and you're like, you're not like I'm channeling something, but you're just having a conversation, and oh,
Yeah.
this is probably not me speaking
Yeah.
right now. These are not my usual thoughts or my usual way to express myself. So you know that you were meant to say something for someone else, just
Yeah.
coming through. And then you connect the dots and kind of figure where that came from. But it's truly interesting how not weird it is. So
Mm.
because you're expecting to have like, the movie experience of how it looks like to be a
Yeah.
channel, right? And then you're like possessed
Yeah.
by the spirit or whatever. But it's
Exactly.
really
It's so
not.
much more subtle,
So
right?
much,
Like,
exactly. So simple, so effortless, and just
yeah.
it's only almost looking in hindsight that you're like, oh yeah, that's probably not me.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's I think it's exactly that. I think people have that expectation that is supposed to be this big thing or something, you know, whatever. And then it's like, oh no, it's actually very simple. That's just
Mm-hmm.
like that simplicity, just this is just what it is, you know?
Yeah.
And it happens without us trying. I think that's the other thing, is when you're trying so hard and you're trying to force it,
Yeah.
that is much harder than if it was just like, you know, like I'm just in it and I'm just allowing, like when you're not
Yeah.
expecting it, basically.
For me, yeah, I'll get like a shiver, like tingly, like I'll get like a validation that like, oh, that's important. That was the message, or
Yeah.
that was important what you just said, or that, or I don't know if I'm feeling the connection with how that resonated with the other person, and I'll feel that,
Hmm.
or, but at least that's how I sort of connect when I'm saying something that was meant to be said for that person to hear it, and that I'm
Yeah.
saying something that they needed to
Oh my
hear.
God.
Yeah, I'll feel like shivers like down my spine, or like there's a tingly something that is like, yeah, that's it. You said it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that you brought that up, because yeah, can we just talk about that for a second? Like the shivers and the like the chills, like the tingly that you
Yes.
feel like
And
when
there's different kinds of tingly, all the things, right? So
yeah.
there's all kinds of tingly feelings. Because for the longest time, I associated the like shiver thing to a soul passing by, like close, or like
Oh.
making me aware that they're in this space. So I'll all of a sudden do this, and then I at
Yeah.
this point I even get a look from my husband like, what? Where is it? What is
Did you
it?
feel that too?
Yeah.
No, okay, that's actually a good point, because I feel like I have associated that with something like that too.
Okay.
And maybe that's like you were saying, like the different types of tinglies, like categorize that type of tingly with actually some sort of energy, because I feel
Right.
like that is true.
It's on my back always. Like
Yeah, I
I don't
can't
know.
remember
For
what.
me,
Yeah.
there's like a
I'll
shiver
have to
thing, or yeah.
I'll have to take notes next time I feel
Yeah,
that.
paying attention on what that is. But it's like it's almost as someone walking behind you and you feel like something.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of tingly. When it's
Mm.
a validation, it's more heart
Mhm.
space. It's more tingly
Right. Right.
here.
Yeah.
That's another fun tingly when I know I'm connecting with someone. And then there's the not fun, something's coming down negative, which is more like stomach. It's more, what's that
Mm.
chakra?
The solar
The
plexus?
solar plexus. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not heart space, but solar plexus. And it's like, that's my spidey
Mm.
sense telling me that something's
Yeah.
going on.
Like, no, go the other
No.
direction, or
Yeah.
yeah.
So just like any kind of communication, I
Mhm.
get you start to read your tingly.
Right, exactly. You need to have like a legend and like, okay, this tingly means this and this tingly means that, you know, just
It's so
like,
funny, but I actually have in my journal, so bad, I haven't been taking notes for a while now, but when I do have experiences, I'm trying to decode and come up with my
mm,
dictionary, if that makes sense. So
mhm,
I'll
mhm.
try to draw what things feel like around me, and trying to, it's the best way to describe a
Right.
tingly, a vibration, a sensation.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just translating all about that sentience and translating
Mhm.
that into something that I can. So then I'm like, oh, it feels like a swirling thing over here. So that's
Oh,
seraphim angels. It feels like it's
yeah.
elongated. It's like almost, anyway. It's weird, but it's different
That's so
than a guardian
cool.
angel that feels more like
Yeah.
physical touch, or like divine energy that feels like this.
Oh,
So
like
anyway,
coming
I
up from
try
your
to,
forehead up kind of a thing.
exactly. So it really depends.
Yeah.
Ascended masters, because I usually try and avoid other things touching me so that nothing interferes with that. But with when
Mhm.
it's like a bigger energy, if that makes sense. Even if I'm in bed, like lying down, like I'll like on with my pillow like this, I'll still feel it through the physical
Oh,
object.
yeah, yeah.
I'm like, oh, whatever this is like big. So I
Right.
associate that with ascended masters, for example. Um,
Yeah.
so anyway,
That's
that's my
so
little
cool.
dictionary that I'm building.
That's
So
such a great idea, though. I feel like this is so helpful for people to, use that as a tool to
And
help them, especially for
talk
those
to
of
them.
you who feel that clairsentience that, like
It's so hard to make sense of
physically.
things. It's like you're in the dark, your eyes are closed, and things are touching you. It's like, what is that?
Exactly. And the hard part is that it's usually so individual. So it's not like we
Yes,
can come up with like a universal dictionary of tinglies, and then
exactly.
this is what this means, and this is always how it's going to mean. It's the same thing with the colors of the
Of
archangels,
the archangels. Yeah,
how
totally.
like
And I
people,
remember asking you a lot about this at the
yeah,
beginning, and I was like, what does this mean? What is this? Why am I feeling like this or that? And you're like,
yeah,
I don't know. You have to figure it out. And it's
yeah,
fair. I mean, the fact that it's just not the same for everyone. We all have different
yeah.
uh, types of clairs open and affinities and things.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. But then by marking it down and actually keeping track in a journal, then you can find the patterns. And I feel like
yeah.
that is one thing that's very consistent for like energies and the angels and just everything as a whole is making sense of the patterns. Like if you can find the pattern and just notice, oh, this is always happening when this happens or whatever, then it starts to make sense in a
Yeah.
way, you
Yeah.
know? I even feel that honestly with like my clairvoyance, because that's one of the main ways that the angels communicate with me. And I found that they will use certain imagery or certain symbols or certain things
Mm-hmm.
as a like, it's not always exactly the same, but there's like a general theme associated with it. So for example, like if for me like the Akashic records for example, it comes through as like a book often, and so it feels
Oh.
like, oh, we're connecting with this book, oh, the Akashic records are opening up kind of a thing, so
Oh,
that might not
interesting.
necessarily be everyone's experience with the
Yeah.
Akashic records, but that's
Yeah.
how I teach about them. So it's like that kind of a thing. Or I'm trying to think of another example, like oftentimes if the guidance is coming through for someone to, I don't know, like connect in nature or do some sort of thing with a specific archangel, it's like I see
Mhm.
a certain type of imagery that feels very similar, where it's either like that specific angel doing something with them, or like I keep thinking like a meditation on like a lily pad kind of an imagery, so it kind of just is so different depending on the situation. But there's certain themes that emerge that I found just over the years now doing this for so long, to that I notice like, oh, okay, that imagery is coming forward. Okay, so it relates to this theme, you know?
Yeah, and it's weird because it's also just letting it come in how it wants to come in.
Yeah.
There's times in life where, yeah, I actually getting flashes or like images, it's very prominent with the sensation, so you can connect the dots. But sometimes things come through that you just have no idea what that is. So you're just like, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Just move on. I guess, or it'll make sense eventually, or thank you for whatever that
Yeah.
was, because perhaps you don't need to know on a conscious level what that is. But yeah, random flowers or random,
Mm.
I don't know, crystals or whatever it is that you're seeing that you're like, cool,
Yeah.
we'll find out.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's like the best way I feel to just receive it and then keep going. It's like, okay, that's cool. Thank you. Like, it's
Yeah,
okay.
it's so funny. We were having a conversation yesterday. So I usually, when I try to look for, and we've talked about the looking for objects thing, and sometimes it's just like an image will come and I'll know where it is and I'll go and yeah, there it is. Super quick and
That's
simple.
amazing.
Sometimes it's just like a cryptic
Mm.
like sentence and it's like, why can't you just say
Yeah.
they are in the, I don't know. Just this
Right.
easy to say kitchen.
Right.
It's not that hard, but it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
They're accessible. It's like, what does that mean? I don't know.
Do you feel like they're like sitting there eating popcorn, like watching us
I
struggle through?
think they play with us all the time and they're just laughing.
They're like, let's make her walk around
How dumb
one more
is
time,
this
and then
human?
we'll tell her where it is.
Exactly. How long can we make her do this for? I do think they just sit back and watch and laugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, it's just as easy to give clear instructions, and they're totally capable of doing that, but they choose to confuse.
Yeah.
They choose to be cryptic and weird for no reason. You can give me a flash of an image, you can give me a useful word, because I think maybe that's the thing, the universal translator, because they are on such a different frequency. Spoken language or like words are harder for them because they're just above that level of communication. So for them to go down to words is harder.
Down to our level.
I think so. It must be like for them to talk like that, it's harder, and for us to understand this subtle vibey thing, it's harder. So we're trying to meet in the middle.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like,
Yeah.
give me a room, give me a,
Right. Exactly.
It's like they're at eye level, and it was like, great. I'm just gonna walk and see at eye level, but where is like, so it was much harder to say eye level than kitchen, like,
right, exactly.
Help me here. So anyway, it's just the frustration of us trying to
bridge that gap
in a way that makes sense for both of us.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing too, is like, I feel like also in general, like we all have our own experiences too. So if I were to even try to describe to you how specifically I'm seeing this angel or that thing or whatever, like even for me to be able to explain it to you, I feel like that is it's so unique and individual for each person, and that it's just like, and I see this all the time. I'm like, I wish I could put you in my brain right now so you could see what I'm seeing, because I don't know how to describe this to you in a way that makes sense or that you can like really fully get what I'm talking about. But maybe that's part of the process too, is it's like that, I don't know what you would even call it, where it's like you were saying, like bridging the gap. It's like meeting in the middle, even between two people when you're trying to explain something or whatever, on that, like what one person is experiencing in their clairs for the other person to understand, and vice versa, so.
Yeah, I've been talking about clairs all week, I feel. I was having another conversation about this and how weird, or, well, I guess it's meant to be, and it's everyone, it's on a different journey, but how we all come with different levels of openness, or we're either like given one thing or the other. We all have them. We're able to develop them if we want to and apply ourselves to it. But the fact that some people come just wide open, and it's just effortless, and even not wanting it, and just their life's work is like the opposite, trying to shut everything down, and other people just have to work to open it up. So it's so weird how clairs work, and how they ebb and flow. Like, I think in life, I felt it change so much. Different times in life bring different kinds of things and perceptions, and they are really, they really change all the time. Sometimes
Absolutely.
it's dreams, sometimes it's smells.
That's such a great point, and it's interesting, like thinking about that now, and why are some people so seemingly so open, and then for others it's like you said, they were like, I wish I could have that openness, but it's like it feels like such a challenge in a way. And actually what comes through as I say that is that whatever a person's particular experience is, there's like a lesson or like a learning experience through that process. So for example, for someone for whom it feels really difficult, like they really want to open up their clairs, but it feels like it's not so clear, or it's not as consistent, or whatever the case is, or they've had to work their way to reaching a certain level, it feels like it's the trusting in what they're receiving in that moment, that even if it's not, like, a common thing that I see is people are like, oh, if only I could like hear them more clearly or see more clearly, then things will make more sense. But that's the lesson there, is that's not going to be the solution that you're looking for. The solution is that with what you have now, you're trusting in how you're receiving it. And then that's what's going to naturally open you up to more of the clairs, because you're in an experience of, rather than seeking and it's kind of like outside of yourself, like once that thing outside of me comes in, then everything's going to be better. It's instead like in that energy of everything's good now, gratitude and appreciation for how, and like trusting in how things are coming in to then naturally develop, you know what I mean? To in that, to develop the clairs. And then on the flip side, for those who have such a huge openness and it's like, oh my God, like I feel like I'm hearing 500 conversations at the same time and this is insane, and like whatever, that their teaching or like their soul's, like let's say lesson or in this lifetime is actually about coming back into more of your spiritual power and not being like so like open, but actually finding that sense of empowerment and control and like almost like boundaries, and being able to hold that energy in a different way for yourself instead of it just being all over the place. You know what I mean? So it's a different, it's different
different
learning journeys. Yeah.
A different understanding that you need to unlock, and a different lesson there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It seems unfair though.
I know. I agree.
Yeah.
And I do wonder too, to what level, I don't actually know the answer to this, but maybe they'll tell us as we ask this question. But
Mhm.
I do wonder to what level also it is passed on, if that makes sense. So for example, like just thinking about ancestrally, it does feel like there is whatever kind of like gifts or openness that exists in a certain ancestral lineage,
Yeah,
there's patterns that get passed on, if that makes sense.
for sure. Yes.
So then I don't know if like the people who feel more quote unquote blocked, we'll say, or that not as open, or like it feels harder to open up their clairs, if there's something ancestrally also that's been passed down too, that adds another layer to the experience.
Yeah.
You know what I
I
mean?
definitely see that even with our family. We can see where it's coming from. We can see the lineage like
Mm,
very
that's
clearly.
super cool.
That's super cool. So we can definitely tell the
Yeah.
on the bloodline and how it comes and how it's expressed in one way or another, but we all have it.
Right.
And that's kind of the blessing and the curse, because it's everyone's journey to learn to understand it, navigate it, or shut it down. Or some people just don't
Mm,
want it. I shut it down for the longest time. I was scared of it. And so it just
yeah.
really depends. But we all definitely come with like a preloaded
Yeah.
something to some extent. And again, it looks very different. Everyone has their own like
Mhm.
superpower, but even in the
Mhm.
same family. But it's interesting because every branch of the tree does have like a something. So some of them are more like healer, like physical healers.
Mhm.
So some of them are like that. Some of them are more like mediums,
Mm.
and just
Oh,
have
I
that other
see.
percent, and are more connected to souls and spirit. So there's like, so
Right.
it's a spiritual healing, not physical healing, but they
Yeah.
all come depending on the branch you look. They do have like specialties,
Yeah.
but it's interesting that we all kind of have it.
Yeah. That's actually really cool to be able to also like that feels like another layer of, yeah, like specialty or differentiation. And I do
Yeah.
feel like that is what people experience. And maybe that's actually related to, you know, something that I've developed over the years with the healer archetypes, where it's
Hmm.
kind of like depending on just the energy and the archetype, like with the whatever is more expressed in you, you're either more like you were saying, like it's more like the mediumship or the connection to souls, or you kind of like see more on that ethereal level versus on a more physical level, it's like physical healing, or
Hmm.
just have this natural knowing and intuition with regards to food or with regards to the body, or you know, it's like both healing, but in different
in
ways.
different ways. Yeah,
So that's
totally.
really cool. I love that.
That's so, yeah, I've
Yeah.
never thought about that. That's so
Yeah.
interesting.
But the other thing that comes up too for me is my experience seeing my two girls and seeing the differences now. So they're
Mm,
4.5 and 2 years old. And the older one, I definitely can see now, like just, seeing them side by side, I see the differences in terms of how they are. I don't know what the word would even be, but the older one, she's definitely more sensitive. She's very sensitive to energy, to people's energy. She's
mm,
much more like, oh yeah, like I no, like, and I remember, this is a crazy story, that a few houses down from us, there used to be this older man who lived there, which I think he passed away now, but he used to live there. And and this was when she was a baby, like baby. Maybe she was, I don't know, like 6 months old or even younger than that, or maybe slightly older. But sometimes we would walk by there and he would be out and whatever, say hi to us. And literally, like, he's just saying hi to us. And as soon as he approaches, she's like crying. She's like, ah, like crying. Like, I don't want to be here, And then as soon as we would walk away, she would stop crying. Like, it was definitely because of him, because it happened multiple times and it was the exact same. And it was like this, like, fear, like she was like her face was also like crying because she's afraid type of feeling. Like, and she's a baby.
did she ever, that's so interesting, but did she ever mention like that he potentially looked a certain way, or that what was the scary thing for her?
No, because she was like
She was
6 months.
tiny.
And then
Okay.
she doesn't remember. And then by the time she got old enough to be able to
She was
communicate, we
not
had a
there.
few women around. Yeah,
Mm,
exactly.
mm, interesting.
So no, but I could just tell that it was a fear. And so then for me too, as like someone who is a channel, I'd be like, what's going on with him?
What's
Like,
going on with you?
what's wrong? Like, I'm asking my angels and like trying to tune in. But, and like, to me, the biggest thing that I felt was that he carried a lot of trauma, and that maybe that was like in his energy, and that she was sensitive to that. That was the most that I could really sense. I don't know
Okay.
exactly, but in general, like, she's very, I remember, just so sensitive to environments and people, and just very, and as she's gotten older, now being 4.5, I do feel like, and I don't know what this is, as humans, if we learn how to manage that, or we either like get used to it or something, because she isn't as sensitive in some
Mm-hmm.
ways, but she still is in other ways. I don't know. It's hard to describe, but it's just interesting. And then the little one, the younger one, she's very intuitive. She is
Oh.
super like she will. I remember, like, when she first started talking, she, like, my husband would not be home yet, but she'd be
Mm.
like, "Oh, Papa's coming." And then within 2 minutes,
It-
he's walking in the door. I'm like, "What? How did you know that?" Like,
That's
there's no way for
amazing.
her to know. Unless, obviously she,
Yeah.
so with her, it's been those kinds of experiences where
Mm.
she says
Yeah.
something, and then I'm like, oh yeah, like whatever. And then it's like, it gets validated. I'm like, oh, well, how did you know that? So it's
That's
very interesting to see that now as they're little, and then to just see how that continues to develop as they get older, and what that might look
what
like,
it's gonna be.
how that differentiates in terms of whoever they're meant to be, or
Yeah.
whatever they're meant to do with those gifts.
That's so interesting. Yeah. I don't know if it's my own trauma that I'm carrying, but I just don't wanna poke. I don't wanna know. I don't wanna poke. I don't wanna put any
Right.
seeds like in her
Yeah.
mind and for her to start. So like she recently started to like have talk about certain fears or things. So I'm like, I don't want to reinforce any particular thing. So I'm like, oh
Right.
yeah, that, there was a ghost. Sure.
Yeah.
What did it look like? And okay, good. Yeah.
Right.
But I
Yeah.
don't want to, kind of
Right. And
poke around. And she definitely, there's something there for sure. Before she was
yeah.
even born, I was having wild dreams and connecting with her. So I know there's something there that she's going to develop
Yeah.
down the line, and we'll see what that looks like. But I I do remember being very, very open when I was younger and being a child. And so, and how perhaps confusing it could be at times,
Mm.
or it was a game for the most part. It was fine.
Mhm. Mhm.
But then also a couple of things that scared the hell out of me. And I was like, nope. I think my clairvoyance, like to some extent, just shut down because like, I don't want to see that ever
Yeah.
again.
And I think that as long as you keep that neutral, like a neutrality around it,
Yeah.
where it's just
Not
like,
good. It's not bad. It's
oh,
just something that
okay.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that she feels safe. And also the fact that she feels safe to tell you, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because I think that if they feel that if they tell us something and we react in whatever way, then that now influences their, you know, like how they feel in terms of being able to share things with us and then how they hold it in and
Exactly.
all that.
Yeah, yeah. I don't ever want her to feel like she can come to me and not tell me something. So right now we're just riding the, imagination train, and every kid, you don't have to be part of it, any lineage, I think. Like kids just come, they're
Yeah.
closer to source, I guess, for a while. So
Yeah.
they still have that connection there, very strong. And so kids definitely feel and see and all
Mm-hmm.
sorts of things easily than any adult would. But yeah, it's just one of those things. We'll see. We'll find out
Yeah.
what her
Yeah.
thing is.
That'll be, yeah. It's an interesting thing to just be able to witness that and like, we'll see what happens.
But also knowing, having some understanding of even like what is a clear, the types of clears. Like, because for
Yeah.
the most part of my life, I just didn't know. I
Yeah.
was just going about life experiencing weird things. So the fact that I am giving her that head start, and that if it happens, when it happens, I have a chance to explain how, yeah, those are clairs, just like your other like physical senses. You have other like layer of senses that relate to energy, and this has how they look, and this is how
Yeah.
you can kind of work through that. And with the support of the angels, of course, because I remember
Mhm.
going through the Claire's kind of content with you, and how each Claire, I love that about it, that we get to choose a buddy to
Mhm.
support us in the development of specific Clairs, or that there are certain archangels that are more inclined to kind of support
Yeah.
with one thing or the other and help us develop those gifts. And maybe you can speak a little bit about that and how the angels come into play when it comes to Clairs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that the number one thing, the first thing in all of that is to just simply be aware of how your clairs have naturally been active throughout your life. So you can usually tell just any meditation practice that you've had in the past, and then being able to just based on your past experiences in meditation be like, oh yeah, I did visually see stuff in that meditation, so you have clairvoyance, or I really felt it in my body, clairsentience, that kind of a thing. I hear things sometimes, clairaudience. And then the other one is claircognizance, which is a knowing, which I to me that's like the number one clair that many people have already, that's already open for people. It's just hard to tell because it can be very subtle or very integrated with like just our everyday life, and so we
Yeah.
can't always tell the difference.
We've all had that moment when we were like, I knew it was gonna rain,
Yeah.
and I was gonna grab that umbrella and I didn't. Why didn't I? Listen. I think we've all had those little moments of, I knew it and I
Yeah.
didn't listen. So yeah, I think that's a very prominent one.
Yeah, definitely. And once you become aware of those, like what clairs, usually it's one or two, sometimes it's even more than that, but just being aware of that, then for me, like in general, you can really call on any of the angels that you want. There's never like a limit, It's not like only these archangels can do this. It's always kind of just whoever you feel most connected to, whoever you feel called to work with. But like Archangel Raziel is a huge angel when it comes to really any of the clairs to support you on that journey and helping you to develop any of those. And then it's setting the intention. So once you choose an angel to work with, and I always say, really start with one, because then it helps you to develop that relationship too, because then you're becoming familiar with that angel's energy, and also then working on the practices. Then so you would call on that angel. We'll just use Archangel Raziel as the example, because he's also the one who's coming forward. Although I do also see Archangel Gabriel, so pick whichever one you want between those two, or whatever. But Archangel Raziel, please come forward and help me with my, clairvoyance or whatever. And the thing that I also say, that I teach about, is actually ask them to support you in strengthening the clairs that are already present, versus trying to, like, there's nothing wrong with trying to develop something that's not as strong, but if you at least start with a practice of strengthening what's already there, you're going to become much more confident in it much quicker. And that confidence in how you're receiving information through the clair that's already open is what naturally opens up the other clairs. And I know this because it's a tried and true practice. I've been teaching this for years, and I've seen the transformation that people have experienced of when they focus primarily on their clairs that are already there, the other ones will naturally develop. And then also, you can, as the other ones are developing, then you can start practicing those too. But really, if you're just starting with those practices, then it's, like, start with your strongest one and ask whoever you're working with, let's say Archangel Raziel, to support you in developing the one that's already there.
That's really interesting. And that's, exactly what I've been doing. And I can see the progression. I can see myself months ago just starting to work on this, and how fast it is too. Like, you think, I mean, it took me, I don't know, 30 something years to unlearn, like, to shut down certain things and still opening everything back up. I thought it would take a while, but once you start doing it, it'll start coming back quicker than you think. I just have a funny anecdote, because I think for me it was Raguel, if I remember correctly, and he kept coming through for me with the clairs. And so he was my buddy, and I was like, what does he look like? Just to have like a mental image. And I was Googling, and I found this very, very ugly animation of him. And it was so funny that I was talking to him, and I was like, can you imagine if you actually look like this? And so whenever I think of him, I can't help but see that crappy animation that I saw. And then I think I almost can see the laughter that it's like our inside joke, that whenever I think about it, I just see that. But it's just a funny connection sort of that we developed. But yeah, for me, it looking at that, just helping to have a mental image of the angel, even if you can't see him or her, or however it comes through for you, even if you can see it, to me, it was helpful to have a mental image. So doing some research, or with your oracle, and just looking at that and having a mental something to concentrate on at the beginning and calling on them like that, it was super helpful to me just to have that connection. Or even the color, and just concentrating and meditating and just calling on them, and then that color just help to establish that link.
Yeah, I love that. And that's actually a huge reason why, when I created the Archangel Oracle card deck, I made the Archangel card not have a face, because I was like, I don't want anyone's face associated with it, because it's just like, let's just leave it as like the energy and the color, and like the like being able to, like you said, like if you have a visual, then you can already tune in to the frequency
so
through
easy.
the visual.
Yeah, absolutely. You can tune in so much faster. Yeah, I don't think they look however we see them either. We've also talked about this a few times. It's just for our benefit almost. Totally. So I think whatever face they put on is just for us, and it's not really real.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I've always not, like, anytime I've had an angel oracle card deck in the past, which I honestly haven't had that many, because I don't know, I never felt connected to them. And that's, I
wasn't
think,
yours.
it wasn't mine. But I just didn't like seeing their faces. I was like, no, this isn't
Yeah,
how
like
I
how
see
that.
them. So
Yeah,
now this is ruining it for me,
right,
So
right. So it's taking away some of the mystery of it. Yeah, I know. For me, yeah, I don't really can make out faces that clearly when I think about just the one. There's just one angel so far that I've been able, and hopefully I get to see you all. But there's only the one face that I've seen very, very clearly. Gorgeous. He was
Mm.
so handsome.
Wait, who was this? Was this one of your guardian
One
angels?
of my guardian
Okay.
angels. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And
I
I
love
in preparation, like before I had my guardian angel kind of reading. So a couple of days before or something, I kept seeing like symbols and signs and things, and so I guess they were giving me validation for when the time came, like for the reading, so
right.
that I could validate. Oh, I just saw this or that, or yes,
Yeah.
that resonates. So they were giving me like golden nuggets and things to hold on to, and then I got to see one of their faces. So handsome,
So cool. I love
dark
that.
hair, his chiseled chin. Oh my god, he's just gorgeous.
You're like, yes,
Yes,
you fulfill that guardian angel role. Yes.
exactly. Knowing that I have you on my left just feels great.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. There's just one face, and then the other one gave me his voice. I got to hear him once,
Mm.
like physically hear
Right.
him once. Scare the hell out of me, but I know it was him. And so yeah. Anyway, so they show up in different ways, and they find a way to connect. But it's also funny how I saw the one, I heard the one, I feel the other one. It was because yeah, I
Yeah.
heard one of them let me see their face. The other one I was able to hear, and then the other one I was the first one that I was able to feel, and the one that I
Right.
feel it more easily when I start talking about my guardian angels. Like I'll have a hand
Yeah.
right here,
You're like,
and
yes,
her,
we're right here.
she'll be like, "Yes, that's me." So it's funny how each one of them showed up with a different Claire in a way. Now that I think
Right.
about it,
Yeah.
that's so funny.
That is interesting, actually. They're like, yeah, one for each thing.
Oh, I love
But
that. Yeah.
I feel like that's how they do it sometimes, and it's like same with the archangels too for me when I feel them coming in, like sometimes like Archangel Gabriel, for example, like he sometimes it's I see his energy, so it's like, oh, okay, Archangel Gabriel, but then sometimes it's more of a sense, and it's like I feel like he's hanging out like right here
Hmm.
behind my right shoulder, like kind of over my like the right side of my head, and I'm like, okay, like what, like what do you want to tell me? So I feel like there's this energy
Yeah.
here, and then it's a knowing, oh, okay, Archangel Gabriel. So I feel that too sometimes, like differently, you
It's
know?
so funny as you said that, because I feel him like, yeah, as if someone was doing this.
Right.
So as you were saying that, I kept feeling,
You
I
can
was like,
feel like
yes, it's
poking on your
different for
nose.
everyone. I know.
Right. That's
Yeah.
so funny. But then it's consistent, right? Like that he's always poking you on the
Yeah,
side
it's
of your
consistent.
nose,
It's
right?
always that same
Yeah.
feeling as if I like this.
Yeah.
So that's so funny how they find just the way, and that's their code within
That's
your specific code to know that you're talking to a certain
yeah.
someone is so funny.
So funny. It's so interesting. And that's what makes it so unique. And it's like you can't compare your journey to anyone else's or how you're receiving messages or even perceiving their presence. You can't compare that to anyone else because, as you can see, it's like so different. And, just sharing
That's
our
such a
experience.
big part of the journey with your clairs, that you're always like, I'm behind, or I'm worse,
Mhm.
or I can't, or like you feel like you're on a different level than everyone else, and you're sort of, or that's how I felt. So it's like, oh, but why can't I do that? And it's like, well, because yours, it's unique to you, and it doesn't have to look a certain way. You can just do different
Yeah.
things in different ways. So
Yeah.
I guess that's one of the most important things, 333,
Oh my
that
God.
we can. Yeah, that's validation. See,
Yeah.
you're
There you
not
go.
behind. You're just you. You're unique. Lean on it and develop like your clairs, however that looks like
Yeah,
to you.
angels are confirming that, like that, what you just said, what you were saying as the 333 came up, it's like someone needed to hear that. that is
There
in
you go. Validation, tingly. Going
Yeah.
back to the tingly. Yeah, so it's just your unique way of developing your clairs and how that looks like to you in a way that resonates, in a way that's not scary, in a way that you can manage with your energy. Anyway, so
Yeah. Yeah.
don't feel bad that you can't do a certain thing.
Exactly. Exactly. It's where you are right now, whatever clairs are open, or however you sense energies and angels and receiving guidance, knowing, I think, first of all, that they can get to you and they can guide you no matter what is the first thing. It's not like
Mhm.
you're going to receive less guidance or like not as good guidance if you don't have certain clairs open. It's not like your guidance all of a sudden becomes so good and so much better if you have clairvoyance or whatever. It's more so working with what you've got and trusting that as you lean in and really just honor and are confident in what is already present for you, the other ones will naturally develop, and the angels are always guiding you anyways, regardless.
Yeah.
So
It
yeah, I
I
love
think
that.
there's one more thing that came up for me about timing. For the
Mm,
longest time, like I was like, I'm behind, or I just didn't do it because I spent all these years not doing it.
yeah.
So it's just, it's gone. Or so I need to catch up now. And so I was rushing and like meditating like day and night and at all times and just trying to kind of catch up with something.
Mm-hmm.
And then divine timing. I was just doing something else, developing other things and going through life in different ways. And I also needed those experiences and I also needed to go
Right.
through that. And now is the right time for me to be doing this. And now it's the right time for me to develop my clairs in a certain other way. So it was not too soon, too late. That doesn't exist. There's only divine timing. And whatever you are at right now, trusting that that's what it's meant to be at the time, that's also important. And so yeah, I think there's that, trusting in the divine timing, and the things that are meant to come through are going to come through when they're right for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that so much. I think that's such an important message because, yeah, it's exactly like you said. And I think so many people can relate to that is feeling like they're behind or like it's too late for them or
Mhm.
whatever. And it's just simply not, that doesn't exist. It's
Yeah,
just the present moment and the divine timing. So,
practice helps, of course.
yeah.
Practice, do it, meditate. It can only help. But yeah, there's no point in rushing anything. It's
Yeah.
going to happen when it's meant to happen.
Exactly. Exactly. I love that. I feel like that's such a perfect note, like just
Yeah.
to end on, like just put a bow on top and like this is so amazing. I want to hear from our listeners. Comment below and let us know how the clairs are showing up for you in your life, how you perceive angels or energies, things like that. If you have any questions about anything that we talked about today, let us know. Post it in the comments because then that could potentially be like a follow up episode. We can expand on certain things. So definitely leave us your comments and questions below. Otherwise, this was a great conversation. I had so much fun talking about this.
This was so fun. Thank you. Yeah, it was a great conversation. We ended up on a theme. There you go. That's how we do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can't wait to
Amazing.
hear about this. This is a very interesting topic, and because it's so different and it can look like anything, I can't wait to hear what the listeners have to say about their experiences and how they experience the clairs. Yeah.
Amazing. All right.
All
Sending
right.
you so much love and angel blessings as always. Bye.
Bye.